This podcast is a production of WCWP, LIU Public Radio. Check out our lineup of original programs, listen live, or support by visiting WCWP.org.
The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Welcome to Project Independence and You. I'm your host, John Ryan, and my co-host today is Otto Lohse.
Morning, John.
And good morning, Otto. And last week was a tremendous show. I wasn't here, but Kathleen Rice was on, and she's a credit to Congress and she's a credit to Long Island. There's no question about it. And today we have with us a tremendous entrepreneur. His name is Tom Kamber. And, I'm going to have to read a little bit of it because Tom is an award-winning social entrepreneur, educator, and activist. And he has, this is right up Otto's alley. He has created, he's worked with affordable housing, aging, and technology. I mean, you're putting this package together for the audience that we serve. Tom is an ideal guest. And of course, this always goes back to Christina, who is the producer of the program and manages to find the people, or if people reach out to Christina and she's interviewed them to make sure that they're worthy for this. Tom is involved in social working, in philanthropy. He's involved with Columbia University. He has started this program in Denver, in Pittsburgh, in New York, and I know there's one other major city. He serves on New York City Mayor's Broadband Task Force. That's huge. And during this pandemic that we're still in the middle of, Otto has brought this up many times, the importance of technology for seniors, because seniors have been lost. At the end of the day, you can't see your grandchildren, you can't see your children, you can't even see your friends. And then when there were situations involving death, it was not even an opportunity to say goodbye to a loved one, unless they could call the room and somebody put the phone against that person's ear, which is terrible. So as opposed to keep going on about Tom, we're going to spend the next hour delving into all that you have created. And really it is absolutely a masterful. Anyway, Tom, good morning. And thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, John, for the wonderful introduction. And I'm really happy to be here today and talk about all the work that we've been doing here in New York and elsewhere as well.
Let's start it off with Otto joined your organization this morning.
Well, I'm, as they all know, a major proponent of seniors getting technically up to speed. I don't think it's an option anymore. It at one point was an option, but I think COVID has pointed out the fact that this is the way it is. And if you don't want to make that adjustment, you're going to be left way behind in life. So I'm very interested in your program, and I'd just like to clarify a couple of things. OATS is that the top level, and then Senior Planet is within that? Could you maybe explain,
Yes.
your organization?
It's a great question, Otto, and essentially, you have it correct. OATS is the nonprofit parent organization. About 16 years ago, I worked with some volunteers here in New York City to start the nonprofit to help senior citizens get online. And subsequently, we realized that when seniors got online and they started using technology, people wanted to connect to each other, and they needed a place and a framework to do that. So we created the Senior Planet program, which is really what we use as a brand and a message for all of the technology classes and programs and centers that we run directly for seniors. So most people in New York who are in their 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s and are taking technology classes with us, they know us as Senior Planet. They go to our website at seniorplanet.org, or they visit our Senior Planet Center in Manhattan or in Denver, other places. But OATS is the organization that raises the money and pays the bills and has the headquarters that kind of organizes all of the operations behind the scene.
Somebody did a tremendous job, and I'm assuming it was you and some other people, but I looked at the list of people who support the organization, OATS, financially, and you've got a substantial list of government and private business. Who's the driver behind that?
It's a team effort, Otto. It's ultimately the driver. If you really want to talk about where we add the real value, it's the people that work directly with the older adults. So I have about 50 trainers now around the country who spend all day, every day working with people over 60 and providing them with world-class programs. And the people are getting real outcomes and real results from it. It's a labor of love. People are not making much money at it. We're a nonprofit, but they're really making a difference out there. And so we can actually take that measurable change that we're getting and talk to public agencies and talk to the foundations and companies. We've been raising more money in the last year under COVID than we ever did before because so many people are concerned about technology for seniors. But the real work gets done really at the face-to-face level with the people that we work with.
Tom, can I ask you one question, which I always like to get? And this that you've created is just absolutely wonderful. Could you go back in time, 15, 16 years, go back 20 years, go, a little bit about your background and what was the impetus that really got this? This doesn't just happen one morning. You say, oh, I'm going to create OATS. There's lots to go into it that all of a sudden it's like a funnel. And OATS was at the bottom of this and has risen to the top, which was tremendous. But that I always enjoy when I hear how this all came about, literally from the grassroots up.
It's a great question, John. I love to ask entrepreneurs where they got their start and what motivated them. And for me, it really started many, many, many years ago. I grew up in Asbury Park, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. My dad was a university professor, and he had a bookshelf dedicated to what you might call like activism studies. And it was all the books about the 1960s and about Martin Luther King and about the environmental movement. And I started reading those books when I was in high school, got very excited about having a kind of a life in social change. And to me, when my friends were all working at the beach clubs and wanted to go work on Wall Street in the 80s and make money, and a lot of them did, for me, the exciting part of growing up and being able to have an exciting and interesting career was measuring what kind of change we could make in the world. So I always wanted to work in nonprofits and in government. In fact, I have a PhD in political science because I wanted to work in government. Okay. And never quite found that niche. I never found the right agency or moment. And around 2000, I had been working in housing nonprofits for about 10 years and studying housing policy, working to help homeless people and low-income housing programs. And I started looking for a way that technology could make a difference. I think every generation has a new set of opportunities to do something special. People in the space age or people in the manufacturing era. And our age for people in my generation is really, I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in 1966. Our generation is focused on technology. This is the thing that's really changed our world and transformed so much around us. And so it was a natural question, how can I take advantage of all this technology change and match it up with my passion for social change? And so I started looking for ways to do that. And I was working for a nonprofit that was helping revitalize Lower Manhattan after 9/11. I got a call from an 87-year-old woman who wanted to come to our web launch party. And she said the magic words. She said, I want to come to this web launch party, but I don't know what the web is. I'm 87 years old. Her name was Pearl Schur. And she said, and I don't know if I'd really feel welcome. And that set a bell off in my head. I thought, wait a minute, how can somebody be called? We're doing a community project here and we want everybody involved. Why would an 80-year-old woman think she wouldn't be welcome just because technology is involved? And so I became friends with Pearl. I volunteered with her for a year. She used to come to my office in the mornings. She used to bring her breakfast wrapped up in a napkin. And we would sit by the computer and we would talk about technology and I would show her websites. And I learned a lot more from her than she ever learned from me, but we made a lot of progress together. And she inspired me to create OATS. I saw not just what technology could do, but I learned about aging. And I'll talk a little bit more about that if you want, but I got really excited about how older Americans now are really changing the landscape of how we live together. And so I wanted to work in that field and I started OATS to do that.
Wow. I think that's wonderful, because that's, you know, what Otto and I and Christina have found doing this program is the most successful people are the ones that own what they're doing. It's got to be a piece of your heart and soul. If it was just like, you know what, I have the opportunity to make another $10,000 a year, I have no interest in you. I don't mean it the way it sounds, because it's an empty, shallow situation. Here, this is something your heart and soul is in, which is so tremendous. So that when your Pearl story, that's a pearl of a story. It really is. It's unbelievable, things along those lines. And the depth, to which this program has gone is just, how do you wind up getting people? I mean, obviously, you found Christina and vice versa, but just in general.
Well, we have a profile on the internet and things, and that helps people find us at oats.org and seniorplanet.org. And people certainly find us through searches. But most of the people that come to us as what we call customers or participants or members, they find us through word of mouth.
Okay.
The crazy part was when we first started out, I was worried that we would never get any people that would get involved. I'll tell you, in 2004, I surveyed senior centers, and I would go to the senior centers and talk to the directors. And I talked to them. I said we wanted to build a program where we would teach people computers from scratch for free. But we figured out that it would take about 10 weeks worth of classes to take somebody from the absolute beginner level until the point where they could use the computers. And senior programs around, in New York don't get a lot of funding, and they don't typically have the resources to do a program that goes for 10 weeks. That's a long haul for people. And a lot of people doubted that seniors would come for 10 weeks. They said, we don't know that there's enough interest. We don't know that you're going to get people that'll show up for 20 classes, because we met twice a week. We did our first class in Bedford-Stuyvesant, an African-American community in New York City, on the Betty Shabazz houses, low-income housing complex. And we taught 24 older adults from the building how to use technology. And that first day, I was sitting there with my notepad, and my hands were shaking. I didn't think anybody was going to show up. And the door opened, and 12 people came in and filled the computer, chairs. And then at the end of the 10 weeks, we asked people, whether or not they really enjoyed the program. And, similar to what Otto was saying, this idea of technology for older people it's a bridge and a barrier. It's a barrier if you don't use it. You can't really be part of the world around you. You're missing out on all these things that are happening. And when you do learn it, it's a bridge to a lot of things that people want to be doing better or bigger or in more connected ways. And so people were super enthusiastic. And we said, we'll teach another class. And I got ready to go advertise. And they all said, oh, no, we've got people that want to take the class already. We'll fill the seats with our friends. And we signed people up right away. People came in, and those courses filled by word of mouth. We've taught over 40,000 people now, and we've had to do almost no advertising over the last 15 years. And now on Zoom, we do things digitally. We did a program with AARP recently where we had 16,000 people on one Zoom call.
Wow.
So
I'm going to go into the AARP connection in a second, but right now we have to take our first break. You're listening to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. Some of the many services we offer include fitness classes, community education, information, and referral. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome back to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. This is Project Independence in You. I'm your host, John Ryan, and my co-host today is Otto Lohse. And we have the distinct honor to have with us the founder of OATS, which is Older Adults Technology Services, and that's Tom Kamber. And I'm just amazed with what has been accomplished. And at the break, and I'm going to send this back to Otto, at the break, we were talking about the first program was in 2004. And here we are in 2020 from a computer point of view. I, believe it or not, and I'm 67 years old, it was last month, I bought my first laptop. I mean, honestly, because I was doing this program with my partners. So I'd have to come to work and ask him to set me up. And then finally my kids were like, Dad, please, what are you doing? And as I'm navigating it, it's definitely much easier than it was, I'm sure, 15 years ago. And I can figure, I bought it for Zoom, to be perfectly honest, because where we are right now, I need to communicate with people. But, you went back to 2004, 5, 6, that was tremendous times. And you mentioned just at the break, 16,000 people on a Zoom call. But I want to send it back to Otto, because Otto was, and very rightfully so, talking about how you navigated 2004.
Well, I go back to, I sold computers in my past in 1969, and they used paper tape and they used mag stripe cards, and it was very archaic and they didn't always work. And we had a lot of legal activity back in those days because they just didn't work the way they were supposed to. And that was the state of the art at the time. So, but my point is that in 2004, even then, technology wasn't as user-friendly as it is today. And I think it's important for people to understand who might have a fear of technology. There's nothing to be afraid of. You're not going to break it. You hit a wrong button, so you hit a wrong button, and you can fix it. It's not like something's going to break. So I was just your take on the user-friendliness, if you will, compared to when you started, like we talked at the break about using DOS back when. That required a lot of explaining, and it was very complex, and it's nothing like that now. It's so different.
Yeah, I think this is a great topic and goes deeply into my experience with technology. I've never taken a computer class in my life. I should just say that. But I was one of the first generation of technology users that grew up around video games. And that when I went to college, my freshman year in college, people were the first group of students that were getting PC computers at college. And so I'm kind of on that bridge. We call it Generation X, right? My generation's a little bit younger. But we remember when there were no computers for the most part, and then transitioning into a world where we became almost completely digital. So I'm not really a digital native the way my kids are. When I went to graduate school, I remember going into one of the research offices and finding a stack in the corner behind a whole bunch of books and opening it up. And they were those punch cards, which is what you're describing. You had, when you made computer programs, you went to graduate school for sociology or political science in the 1970s, they would put you in a room and you would be punching punch cards all day to get your quantitative data. And a whole generation of graduate students spent thousands of hours focusing on technology, but not as much focusing on what you do with the technology. And I have to say, I felt so fortunate because my generation was the first one that was moving past that, where the computers were already more or less functioning, and you didn't have to spend quite so much time learning how to do the coding and the programming and things. And when I started OATS in 2004, a lot of seniors were still struggling with that history of the technology being about engineering and about the devices and about having to learn all these techniques. But that was really where the change started happening with the web and with consumer technology and the email that when Gmail started and people could get free email, and when laptops became relatively easy to use, and the tablets, certainly the iPhone has really changed the way a lot of people interact with technology and generated a new era of using tablets, which a lot of people are really comfortable with now, the iPad or the Android tablets. And so today, I can sit down with a 75-year-old person who may have a real terror of computers and technology. And under 2 hours, I can have that person at least interacting with the internet, using a tablet device, sending and receiving a message, taking a photograph and sharing it with somebody. You could not have done that in 2004. There were just too many elements that you had to learn in order to operate the device. So today, you get a lot more bang for your buck as a first-time user, and the sort of learning curve is a lot quicker than it used to be. And also the devices are actually a lot cheaper. My first PC in 1989 when I went to college was $2,000, and it wasn't that great a PC. Today, you can buy a great Chromebook that'll do a lot of what I need for my computers and probably what John is describing for what he's using for under $200. And they're pretty reliable machines. They work great. So
I bought an AT&T 6300 for $5,000 a long time ago, And in order to use it, there was a program called Q&A, and you had to write your own database program. And I'm not an engineer. I was in sales, but the application and what you could do with it was what intrigued me. It was just a different planet. But I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh, that's the kind of story we're trying to tell here.
That's very important, Otto, what you're saying, because between you and Tom, you spend $5,000 for a senior, even today, to spend $5,000, that could hurt a person's budget. $200, even the adult children can buy it for mom or dad. And if they don't use it, guess what? It's not the end of the world. They say, Ma, try it. Give me a break. I bought my mother maybe 10 years ago. I didn't buy it for her. I put her on my package so she'd have her cell phone. And after about 3 years, one day she tells me, John, please take the phone back. I said, Ma, use the phone. She never took the phone away from the regular phone in the kitchen. I said, the whole idea is when you and Daddy go out, you bring it in the car. No, we don't touch it. We always keep it by the phone. I said, okay. So I canceled it. It was just like the dumbest thing in the world. I said, use it. And it was what, $10 or $15 a month. Some people are not going to adapt. And that's 100% fine. But to have the ability to, like someone like Otto is the extreme on the other end. Otto is our king because he's into the middle of everything, and he really should be, because seniors have this at their disposal. Why not keep up with your children, your grandchildren, your friends, your neighbors, whatever it is, with a lousy phone call or a Zoom, just to say, hi, how you doing? I want to show you my new, whatever it is in my kitchen. And especially during the pandemic, keep you in the loop. And for seniors, like I know you're in Denver. So somebody in Denver can hook up to somebody in New York.
I have a great story about this, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but
it's just conversation.
Denver has a wonderful senior citizen funding model out there. There's a big foundation that's doing a lot of innovation in Colorado, all across the state, and they asked us to come to Denver, and we started a senior planet center in an airplane hangar, in a historic airplane hangar at Lowry Base, right next to the Wings Over the Rockies Museum of Aerospace. And it's a super cool space. It's kind of it's like a big loft, kind of what you'd see if you went to one of those hipster Dumbo places and saw the people in their skateboards and things. But this one's for senior citizens, and it's a really, really neat place. And our trainer out there is a bit of a star, and she was delivering a program on using technology to make money and learn how to go online and be able to supplement your income a little bit with different kinds of different sorts of jobs that people do. And one of the participants was in New York City, but taking the class from the Denver trainer. And she got online. She found out about the census and that you could become a census enumerator. She got a job working for the census through the internet, and then started doing that, and then started working with the digital portion of it as well, because you need a little bit of computer skills. And she started earning money this summer, which supplemented her income. And after COVID happened, her friends refused to come to New York City. They all live in New Jersey. She used to be part of a pool club out there. So she got frustrated that she couldn't be connecting with her friends, even though they were all hanging around the pool. And she bought a 1997 Chrysler Sebring convertible. And she drove out to New Jersey to hang out in the pool club, and she had her friends back for the summer. And she had such a good experience that she emailed us and said, she actually emailed the trainer in Denver, who then sent the email to me in New York and said, thanks a lot. The distances have just evaporated these days. And I can use a great quality person out in Denver and use their resources to build a great program that somebody in New York is using to connect to her friends in New Jersey.
Yes. Honestly, it's amazing.
Right?
Honestly, stories like that, it's like, two things.
Cool. It was cool.
Technology. Go ahead.
One other thing she said that I'll never forget in the email, and this gets a little bit to your description of your experience with your mom. She said a lot of people in COVID are really going through, a terrible time. But for me personally, I'm feeling very optimistic about myself and my future because I've learned all these new things and I feel more empowered. I'm actually growing as a person. And she felt almost a little bit guilty that, she was doing really well, but she wanted to share with us that it was partly because of that engagement that she had with us. And I think what's going on here is that, aging today in 2020 is very different from what it was like 20 or 30 years ago. And people are, if you think about, my grandparents when I was in high school, when they turned 60, they thought, geez, we just don't have that much time left. We're going to go to Florida and play golf. And we might have a life expectancy. 10 years would be a lot of time. And they wanted to just kind of live and, have a little bit of leisure time. But today, if you reach 60, your life expectancy is 85. And 25 years is a lot of golf. And for many people, because of things like the medical advances and hip replacements and all the things that are available to us, and also, people own home ownership is at a different level and things, people have more to rely on to live better. And they're asking a lot more of those post 60 years. So it would be very natural for your mom to be looking for a way to kind of engage more. But today what's happening is people are saying, well, wait a minute, maybe we don't want to just leave the cell phone by the phone in the kitchen. We want to start asking, like, what else can we do with this technology? So we can talk a little bit more about that after the break. But I think it's really, there's a new culture emerging of aging, and that's part of what we're tapping into here.
And I definitely want to touch on it. We will take a break right now, but come back to that because that's a very important point. You're listening to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. Some of the many services we offer include nursing and social work services. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome back to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. This is Project Independence and You. I'm your host, John Ryan, and my co-host today is Otto Lohse.
Zooming along, John.
And zooming along, and we're with Tom Kamber, and Tom is the founder. I mean, this is the most tremendous organization of OATS, which is Older Adults Technology Services. And just before we went to this last break, we were talking about how a person can take the programs that are offered by OATS and utilize them to affect personal change in their life. Ultimately, that's what I'm trying to get at, because, without technology, you're going to sit home, you're going to watch TV, you've lost your children because they're only a phone call, you're not seeing anybody, et cetera, et cetera. However, with technology, with Zoom and everything else that's going on, with Zoom, we're here because of Zoom, with all the stuff that's going on, if the senior takes hold of it, okay, and embraces this technology, then the world's the limit for them. I mean, they can be in touch with their friends in California, Denver, New Jersey, Hawaii, all at the same time, and then come up with a plan. And I personally think that it's not a ritual. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but sometimes the impetus for change comes from one of these things. And all of a sudden, it's like, I can do that. And you see them coming out of their shell. Do you agree, Tom? I mean, you have every right to disagree with me, whatever your opinion is.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think things are, there is a slow but a very observable change in how we think about aging today. And again, I'm not originally trained as a gerontologist, but I've worked a lot with real experts in the field over the last 10 years. And they pointed out that the demographic is changing so much that we it's almost as if the analogy that I like to use is what they call infill development. So in Lower Manhattan many years ago, we were digging out subway tunnels and things. We had all this extra dirt and land, and they just dumped it in the Hudson River along the lower part of Manhattan. And then eventually they had so much land that they could build Battery Park City on top of it. And it was a weird opportunity because Manhattan had all developed, but suddenly there was this, hundreds of acres of land that they could do something new with. And they were able to design a whole community from scratch with a new set of tools. And that's kind of what's going on with our lifespans today. In this era, we've added more years to the human lifespan in the last century than we did in all of human history before that. And the idea that people could retire, you may know this already, but the idea that retirement should happen at 65, that was invented in the 1800s. Because Otto von Bismarck in Germany was trying to create the first social security program. And they said, when do you want to start paying people? And he said, what's a really advanced age when everybody's almost going to be passed away, so I don't have to pay too many people? They said 65 is a pretty good year to start. And he started that because only 4% of the people in Germany were living past 65 at the time. Well, somehow that 100-year-old concept, which doesn't apply at all to our society today, is still a kind of a threshold that we use as a marker for how we're thinking about aging, which of course doesn't make any sense. And so what you have is all of these older people. What I hear when I talk to seniors at Senior Planet is they come to me and they say, I was walking down the street today, I looked in a storefront window and I saw this old person looking at me, and I was, who's that woman? Because people don't feel old. They don't feel old. They feel like themselves. We don't. Our inner soul, our inner core person doesn't really age. The body around us changes, and the way people react to us, that's a big deal. How we're treated changes, but we still feel that same sense of purpose and meaning and value in our own lives. And so there's a mismatch. And what we try to do at Senior Planet is simply give people an opportunity to get some tools and get some social connection to overcome that mismatch so that they can be their true selves more successfully. And that's not a magical thing. It's actually an obvious thing. You just have to talk to older people and ask them what they want to do and set them up to do that. It's not particularly complicated, but it's not something we've done enough of in our society lately. We have to really retool a little bit for this longevity revolution. We're right in the middle of it.
I like to use the word rewirement as opposed to retirement. You know, you're rewiring your life. You're not like I'm retired theoretically, but I'm not really. I do play golf, but I do a lot of other things besides that. And I'm with my family. I have a part-time thing I do, and I'm involved obviously with Project Independence as a volunteer. I'm on the technology committee, which I'm big on with Project Independence. And frankly, Project Independence has a program, Technology for the Terrified. But they have one person who tries to do a lot of things, and she's great, and she does a great job. But there's so many people that are involved in North Hempstead, as an example, that should be learning. Like I'm big that you mentioned the tablet. To me, the tablet is like all of a sudden, it's most people, and this is only opinion. I'll be willing to wager like 90% of the seniors can get by with a tablet without having to have a full-blown laptop computer with all the keys and the bells and the whistles. You want to do email, you want to go on the internet, you want to communicate, you want to look at photographs. You can do all those things easily with a tablet. That's an opinion, Matt. You maybe can either reinforce or knock it down.
No, this is also a really helpful line of inquiry here, because I think also I want to make sure people get some practical help on this call and this session, because we've learned a lot over the years of teaching. And one of the things we've learned is you're absolutely right. Tablets are really helpful for people. They're easier to use. They're easier to set up. In many cases, they're cheaper for what you're using them for. And typically tablets divide between the Apple, which is the iPad and all the various iPads, and what they call Android tablets, which are typically cheaper and operate within, some other version of the Android software. And you can learn those two. You can pick up a tablet and with a little bit of coaching, get started on it in just a few sessions with somebody, and it's pretty helpful for people. The only reason that you would want a laptop, or you would want what we call a Chromebook, which is a cheaper version of the laptop, is if you need that keyboard. And tablets can be set up with keyboards as well, but if you're going to be typing on a keyboard a lot, you want that experience that feels like a computer, then then the laptop can really be helpful. But it's really a question of how much typing you're going to do. If you're going to be typing a lot and really writing on it and using it almost like as a work machine, and a lot of people over 60 are still working, or if they're volunteering, their volunteer situation requires that they act like workers in an office, sometimes that laptop or the Chromebook is the right format for them. So we teach at OATS, we teach laptops, we teach Chromebooks, We teach iPads, and we teach the tablet through the Android system. With there's a T-Mobile tablet we teach at the moment. I will say one thing. I do think people over 60 should have at least one device, if they can afford it and they're willing to try, one device in the house that has a decent sized screen. So you notice I didn't say smartphone, because a smartphone is a small thing here. It's not, you can't, on a smartphone, you can't do a lot of the things that you'll do on a tablet because the screen's too small. And so we do recommend, even if you have a smartphone, that you should also adopt, if you can, a tablet that's the larger version of whatever platform your smartphone is on.
I just want to jump in here with one thing that both Tom and Otto have said, but it's a little too late for me. I told you guys in the beginning, I bought a laptop, an Apple. I spent $2,000 a month ago. The only thing I need this keyboard for is to type in my code to open it. I don't type on this. I don't do anything on it. I probably should have had a tablet. I mean, and so by explaining this to people, this makes this program just perfect today, because you don't have to spend the $2,000. Now, obviously, I can do it. Maybe I'll use it for work one day. I have no idea. But at this point in time, from a senior, obviously the tablet would have just been perfect. It would have been perfect for me.
Well, there's a few considerations here, and I can sort of help you think. I mean, I can tell you what I would have recommended, or how I would have talked you through this. Essentially, what you want to do is decide what kind of user you're going to be, and where you're going to be getting help, and where you're going to connect to people. So if everybody that you interact with in your family and your social environment, if most of them are on the Apple, then getting yourself an Apple laptop is not a bad idea, because you're on the same platform as them. So if you need help from your kids and they call you up and they say, John, Dad, listen, open up the screen and click on the little bouncing face on the lower left side. Well, that's because they're on an Apple, and on an Apple, when you open that screen, that's what you see. And if that's what you see and what they see, then you can all help each other, and your files, everything are going to be very compatible and very easy to work with. So that platform is probably the most important indicator of success for older people. It's what are your kids on and what are your friends on, because you're going to call people and ask them for help in the first month or two, and that whatever their platform is, you're going to want to match that. And that's the most important question. And then within the price points, you can go, the cheapest thing people can buy typically would be a very affordable Android tablet, or what we call a Chromebook. A Chromebook is just like a laptop, but it has to be connected to the internet to work, and it uses internet-based software. So they're actually a little bit easier, a little bit more secure to use, and they are cheaper. Chromebooks are really very affordable versions of laptops. A lot of people really like them, but they're not Apple. And if you have to work in that Apple universe because everybody around you is on Apple, you might, and you can afford an iPad, an Apple laptop. They're really very powerful, wonderful devices, very well designed, but their price point is much higher. And then that last thing I would mention is there's a bit of a culture of technology use. So people that are that like design, people that have a few more resources often do use Apple because they're beautiful devices and they're very elegant and they look great. And they say about yourself that you're the kind of person that appreciates that. It's the kind of a person that might spend a little bit more on a card just because it looks better. But if all you want is the functionality, you might go with the Android.
You bring up some really very, very important points, in my opinion. We used to call it ICI, Intelligent Customer Interviewing, or whatever you want to call it. The point being, have a conversation and define the goals and needs of this person, and like what you described about family involvement. What do you want to do with it? What could you do with it, and so on? Would that be something that Senior Planet, like people could start from the bottom, if you will, and think about, man, I'm hearing all these different things. I'm seeing all these ads for these kinds of laptops and this kind of Chromebook and this kind of whatever. Guidance in terms of just starting. Like, is that something that Senior Planet might get involved with? Could people Absolutely. Talk to somebody and talk about their needs, and maybe you might make a recommendation as to what type of technology they ought to be going after?
Absolutely. And I think we have a hotline on Senior Planet right now for people because we're now doing everything digitally. So I'll answer that as a two-part question. Before COVID, we did a lot of that kind of work. We have volunteers at the Senior Planet Center, which is in Manhattan on 25th Street between 6th and 7th Avenues. It's right there. It's a retail spot at 127 West 25th Street. So when all of this craziness eventually subsides, people are welcome back there. All of our programs are free to the seniors from Senior Planet. So people can just walk in. You don't have to be an American citizen. You just have to be 60 or older, and we will help you out for free. So that's a resource. And we were teaching all over the country at Senior Planet centers, and we will keep doing that at the centers. We're paying the rent on these spaces. We're going to keep them open, and we will be back in business in 2021 teaching in person. And people come in and they say, I don't know what to get. I don't know what to buy. And we help them make those choices. We have volunteers, but we also have classes online right now at seniorplanet.org. And we have a hotline. I can give the number after the break that people can call to get help on the phone, making some of those kinds of choices.
You know,
get that number when
Tom comes back, because I think this part of this program is so important for seniors listening. In reference, coincidentally, I have 3 daughters. All 3 of them have apples. So obviously that's why they started me to the apples.
Right choice then.
Okay. You're listening to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back.
Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. One of the many services we offer is help at home with minor home maintenance. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome back to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. This is Project Independence and You. I'm your host, John Ryan, and my co-host today is Otto Lohse. And I see Otto is still awake, which is wonderful. Thank you, Otto.
It's hard to do, John, when you get older. You know?
Well, we're sitting in these relaxing chairs, too.
You know what? That's the one thing about the Zoom part of it. When we were just on the radio, I could just shut my eyes a little bit and nobody knew anything.
Here we're going to catch you.
It's much harder this way, really.
We're talking with Tom Kamber, and Tom is the founder of OATS, which is Older Adults Technology Services, and also Senior Planet. And locations are all over the place. There's thousands and thousands of people involved with this at this point. And even at the break, Christina was just talking about utilizing Tom more with his technology knowledge. I mean, we are going forward in a technological world. I mean, that's all it is to it. We talked a little bit in reference to retiring, and it's so true. I mean, even in this country, when Social Security started, I forget how many thousands of people contributed for one person. Now, every 2 people is paying off one. I mean, you know, we didn't expect people to be living into their 90s and still getting Social Security. You know, you're right. You retired at 65, you were dead in 68. So we paid you for a couple of years. We didn't pay you for 2 generations, which is what's going on. However, and that's one of the most important things for this program, whilst you are living, it's the quality of your life that's the most important thing. Not to be sitting home watching TV and not having any contact with the outside world. Between the senior centers and technology and everything that's available to a senior, and you with Senior Planet and OATS, it's a major, major, tremendous conduit to bring people together. And that's all you want. You know, you're going to get people that are not going to participate whatsoever. That's life. And you know, everybody, Otto, Christina, yourself, we've all witnessed this. Like, you can't make them eat it if they don't want it. That's all there is to it. But for those that want to avail themselves of your services, I think it's tremendous. What I want to touch on is just for a minute, and then you can go wherever you want in this last segment. Just what goes on in Chelsea. Chelsea is your New York office, am I right?
Yeah, our flagship center, yeah.
Okay, so it's just computers, or actually people can go and hang out there?
Oh no, people go hang out. We actually, a lot of people come to the Chelsea Center. First of all, we looked at 70 locations before we launched that place. Wow. Because we didn't want to have anybody we didn't want to have a center upstairs, because I didn't want anybody to go through security and have to deal with all the, you know, identification badges and all that stuff. people should be able to get to your center and make it easy for them. So we created a kind of a friction-free model to get people in there. And we found a big retail space right there on 25th Street, which you can just walk right into from the street. And it's a large open space with like huge windows in the front. It's a beautiful space. People come in and they say, I never expected it to look like this. This is the most beautiful senior center I've ever been in, because it's designed to make it really special for people. We got great support from the City of New York, Department from the Aging. We got support from the federal government, but a lot of private funders as well helped us build that space out. We were working with Time Warner Cable at the time. We've worked with Verizon, all sorts of different foundations, and the Weinberg Foundation. They all put money into making that place great. When you walk in there, there's a big open room. There's an area on the side we call the living room that has couches and chairs. It looks just like a living room, because that's where most people start with their technology experience, right? Everybody knows what a television is. So we sit you down in there and talk to you about what you want to do, what you want to learn. And then around the room, you'll see there's computers and things set up around the walls in different places. People can just go right on those computers and use them. We'll coach you, we'll train people on them. But a lot of people come in there for the free Wi-Fi and the friendly atmosphere, and just they like to get out of the house or out of the apartment, come in there. People come from all over, including Long Island. 35% of the people that come to that center come from outside Manhattan.
You can do that now, by the way, during COVID?
No, COVID shut it down because of the issues with the security. So we're waiting to go. The city will eventually allow us to reopen that. And as soon as the city is reopening the senior programs, we'll reopen that center. We're assuming sometime, hopefully the late spring or summer of 2021. And so that's a real resource. But in the back of the center, there's a computer lab where we teach classes all day, every day. So that's how that's set up. And then we send trainers out all over New York City. We teach at about 100 locations a year in partner sites. So they have senior centers and housing groups and nursing homes. We'll go teach wherever somebody's got computers or a lab or Wi-Fi, and we can get paid. We'll teach it.
When you send trainers out, is there a charge for that, or is
is? Yeah. So we don't charge the seniors. We charge the institutions. So if somebody has a library and the library's got some budget, we'll negotiate a project where we can send trainers out for that library. And what we're doing now is building more of almost like a mass model where we can serve places all over the country. So we've been working with the Humana Foundation down in Louisville, Kentucky on a project to expand training for seniors so people can get online and close that technology adoption gap everywhere. And that's going to allow us to work with more of a hybrid of some government resources and some foundation and corporate money to get to teach, hopefully, in every county in the country. That's our plan over the next 5 years. We're already in 6 different states, and we've taught over 60,000 people online since COVID started. The city of New York invested in 10,000 free tablets for people in the housing authority for seniors. We're teaching all 10,000 of those people this winter now, and they're all online. But we have millions of people to be able to reach. So over the next 3 to 5 years, we want to close that technology adoption gap where anybody who wants to be online can be online. I agree with John, by the way. Some people don't want to be online, and I believe strongly in people making their own decisions. So if you don't like technology and you don't feel like you want to learn it and you'd prefer to use the newspaper or the radio or whatever makes you feel comfortable, that's your choice. We totally support that. It's that group of people that are kind of looking over their shoulders a little and saying, you know, something's going on that I want to be part of, and I never wanted to learn it before, but now I do. That's our customer base. Those are the people that we want, who are curious, who might have had a bad experience in the past, but they're ready to try again. And we'll teach you in a social environment so people can learn in a really supportive way. And we don't want the seniors to have to pay to solve a social problem that they didn't create. So that's why we get all the foundation and government actors and corporate actors to pay for these classes. We raised $10 million this year. We're a $10 million nonprofit right now. And this whole operation started in my living room in Brooklyn 15 years ago with me and a laptop and my dog, and that was it. And now it's grown to this.
That's a great story, really great.
Yeah. That's tremendous.
One other area that, I'm sorry, John.
No, go. I just said congratulations.
Well, another area of technology that the Project Independence Technology Committee has been talking about is smart homes and the use of Alexa-type devices within the home. I'm of the belief that if somebody can sit there and say, Alexa, play me Perry Como, or, Alexa, do whatever, would be great for people who are isolated, which right now there are a number of because of COVID. What's Senior Planet's direction as far as that goes? Is that something you're getting involved with or have been?
Absolutely. And I think, Otto, one way to think about this whole technology challenge for people is to think a little bit as if you're getting access to a new language and a new culture. I've traveled around the world a little bit, and most other countries, people speak more than one language. If you go to Europe, everybody speaks 2 or 3 languages, and they're pretty familiar. If you go to Italy, people speak German in Northern Italy, and they know all about Germany and they can talk about it. Well, as an older person today, you have to learn this new language of technology, which means not just learning the skills to use, just a computer or just the phone, but think about it as a new culture. Think about it as not just the physical tool, but also the things that come along with it. And the smart home is part of that culture now. People are realizing you can set your home up. Once you've set your home up with your laptop, you have to be connected to the internet from home. And once you're connected to the internet, that opens up a whole host of opportunities to use that connection to do things like look at your doorbell when you're away from home and see who's ringing the doorbell. Or check people. We have a contract right now in Montgomery County, Maryland, with the Montgomery County government, where we're training seniors to use electrical monitors at home that use the internet to manage their electric bills and save money on electricity, which is just super cool because that smart home allows you to leverage that single investment in the technology connection to build a more certainly a cooler home where you can say, Alexa, turn my lights off in the den, or Alexa, play me a Perry Como song, or Alexa, when was the last time the White Sox won the World Series or something like that? That could go back a few years. And you can have more fun with it. You can have part of that culture. There's a whole world of podcasts out there today, which are replacing some of the traditional news networks. And in fact, programs like this that are, people wouldn't necessarily see them on cable TV or listen on the radio, and suddenly you discover it on the internet and you can come watch a Zoom session. So that new set of the culture of technology use includes the smart home. And there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of options. Alexa is really cool because you can control it by your voice. You can have Alexa send somebody a message. You can have Alexa buy you some more dog food and have it shipped to your house. There's a lot of things people can learn how to do with it. It's really about what your preferences are. And how complicated do you want to get with or how ambitious you want to get with your technology choices. I always say start with the thing you want to do the most and learn how to do that well, and then add on things one by one until you decide that you're having a good balance and having fun with it. It shouldn't feel frustrating or aggravating for people. Sometimes
I believe that a caregiver, if you will, a child of somebody who's in a position, maybe they don't have the wherewithal to kick something like that off, but the caregiver, when I use the word, it could be a family or whoever, are the ones that maybe would want their mother or their father to have a smart home. Yes, so that they are safe and they'll know what's going on with them and so on. Do you get involved in that at all with caregivers type of thing?
We do a little bit, although I'll have to tell you that at Senior Planet and OATS, we really focus on the end user senior. Right. And there's 2 reasons for that. One is that a lot of families have a lot more tension than we like to admit. I remember looking at people that have these home monitoring systems. They said, everybody's, your children can watch you on a video and make sure that you're okay. And I talked to a whole bunch of seniors that were like, I don't want my kids watching me on a video. I don't want my children having that level of control over me. I want control over myself. And I'd like to, have support where I want it, when I want it, and how I want it. And so when we empower the older person directly, they can use those tools. And if you've got a great relationship with your son or daughter or sister who wants to be checking in on you that way, that's great. But I prefer to make sure that people are trained to use those devices themselves, and that they're mainstream consumer-oriented devices, and people remain as empowered as they can as long as possible, so they make their own decisions.
Unbelievable. Honestly, Tom, Christina said it best. I mean, you have to come back. You have to get more involved. I mean, this hour just flew by, and really is just the tip of the iceberg. And unfortunately, we're out of time. It just goes so quickly. But I want to thank you so much for participating. And I'm sure Christina is going to be in touch with you. We're going to be giving out your number. And that's it. So all I can say is thank you from the bottom of my heart, because this has been one of the most enlightening shows we've done in a long time. You're listening to Senior Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. And I'm throwing out another special thank you to Tom Kamber, who really has put together a phenomenal organization. And you should be very proud of that. Thank you.
You're very...
Like what you hear? Here's how you can let us know. Give us a call at 516-299-2626 or email us at info@wcwp.org. Like us at facebook.com/mywcwp and leave a comment or tweet us at mywcwp. We welcome all kinds of feedback. To directly support the podcast you just enjoyed, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to give back, visit wcwp.org and click the support tab. Thanks for listening from your friends at WCWP.